Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Rapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Puteti Tan Maitaya Taravo Benedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Unimanatusmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Padada Lakshai Kiptashtakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanadavindam Tavevasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, we're going to begin on this day of the appearance, manifestation of Sri Varaha Dev, and the great battle between he and the first demons, right? Hiranyaksha. He was the first demon. He was born first from the womb of Diti. Hiranyakashipu was born second, but he's considered the elder brother because when there's twins, the one in the back of the womb was conceived first, and then the second one is in front. So even though he was born first, he's considered the younger brother by moments or whatever. And so we're going to offer our obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved gurus who have revealed all these beautiful pastimes and truths to us. First to Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Lila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tarasata Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Lila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tarasat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Varga, and unto all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, headed by, in the audience, the exalted Sannyasigan. Jai. So, this appearance and pastime of Lord Varaha is covered in the third canto, and there are many, many, many chapters. Oh, there's no possibility of doing it all in one class. Within that is the appearance of Lord Varaha himself, how that came about, but also the reason for his appearance. Because, like Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma sangstarpanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever there is, in order to protect the devotees and to annihilate miscreants, I come then, millennium after millennium, because there's always demons. And he says, whenever there's a decline of religion and a rise of irreligiosity, then I manifest myself. Just like we're seeing now throughout this Kali Yuga, incredible decline of religion. Complete absence of religion, complete ignorance. And so when it was reaching its peak, Mahaprabhu appeared, and even though ignorance is still growing and manifesting on the one hand, the teachings of Mahaprabhu, his revelations and his reestablishment of the beauty of the Vedas, it's happening. It's happening. So we read about these different pastimes because it does two things. On the one hand, it gives us some very powerful philosophical basis for understanding the truth of these Vedic literatures. Because they're very powerful, they're very broad, very consistent. But also, just by hearing these pastimes, something extraordinary happens within the heart of the living entity. Attraction for the Lord is awakened. And in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, in the second verse, where, Dharmak projita kaitavo tra paramo nirmatsaranam satam, he says, this is spotless literature, and it's quite extraordinary. It's meant for the nirmatsaranam satam. What's nirmatsaranam satam? It means those who are completely devoid of envy, right? Envy inhabits the heart of all conditioned living entities because we are bound by false ego, which makes us want to be the enjoyer in all circumstances. And our relationships with others depend on how much they cooperate in that endeavor of the conditioned soul. If they help us enjoy, they make us feel good, then they're our beloveds and friends. And if they don't, no matter what their qualities, they're our enemies. And the demons of this world, they prey on that mentality, and we live in a world of friends and enemies, right? So people aligned by nations, by towns, by high school sports teams, by families, whatever it is, this company versus that company, it's all friends and enemies, right? And all begins with our own false ego. So, we're all full of envy. But those who are nirmatsaranam, the satam, pure, when they hear the Bhagavatam, sadhya hirdya varudate chakirti bisho shushabhistakshanat, immediately prem comes into their heart. That's how powerful the Bhagavatam is. But what about us? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in that verse that even for persons who are not yet awakened, if they just hear the Bhagavatam, the seed of devotion is planted and Krishna claims them as his own. So just hearing the Bhagavatam, he says, you will get prem. And Gurudev says, for those who are practicing sincerely, it may happen even in one lifetime, which he says, very quickly. It's established within the heart. One lifetime. And for others, it may take a few, but it will definitely take place. So we have the opportunity on these days to hear the Bhagavatam, and if we hear it with special attention, then even more. He says, so even someone who hears it without acknowledging, without knowing, they get this seed planted. Krishna claims them irrevocably. What to speak of someone who hears with respect and faith? So we have to gather up our intelligence and focus on these narrations and pray while we're hearing them, understanding that the Lord himself has manifested in these narrations. He's there. And Vedavyas, Shukadev Goswami, Sutta Goswami, right? And all of our acharyas are within these dialogues. It's true. And we pray to them that they give us these revelations and this strength. So, what happened was that, demons were there. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were born of Diti. They were conceived at an inauspicious time, but there was a purpose in that. Diti, Aditi, her sister, they were, greatly exalted ladies, demigod ladies, and both were married to Kashyap Muni. But because, for some reason, the desire to have children was very powerful in her, and at an inauspicious time, she approached her husband, and he told her, if we do this at this time, something bad will happen. And something bad did happen. When these two children were born, all kinds of inauspicious signs were manifest in the world. Not just terrible storms, but, comets, jackals howling, demons throwing blood and bones from the sky, all kinds of things. And it was understood, these are going to be the terror of the universe. But they appeared for a particular reason. They appeared because the Lord had a desire to fight. So his two special gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, said, all right, we know our Lord wants to fight. Who can he fight? Who can give him a fight? No one on that world, only someone like us, one of his own special devotees in the Vaikuntha realm. If we descend, we can give him a proper fight. And so they had that desire to serve in that way. And then the pastime of the 4 Kumaras coming to the gates and being denied entrance to Vaikuntha, that was manifested. So they appeared to get angry, cursed them. No one in Vaikuntha can be cursed. And personalities on the level of the Kumaras, they wouldn't have anger. It's all Yogamaya, arranging. And so they took birth as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha to create this terrible condition in the world. And for those who were suffering, that was their karma. But also it gave a great opportunity for devotees to remember the Lord, pray to the Lord in separation and need, and then he agrees to appear to deliver them. He appears as Varaha to kill Hiranyaksha, and he appears as Lord Nrsingadev to kill Hiranyakashipu. In fact, no one else could do it. And Hiranyaksha, he was the first one to go about and create trouble. He went all over, higher planets, lower planets, challenging all the demigods, all the powerful people. They had to run from him. They could not fight him. But even those who could have fought him, like Yamaraj, declined because, well, there's another special way. The Lord wants to fight with you. So they either pretended to be afraid or, Varuna said, oh, my dear, I am too old to fight now. Right? So, but there is someone who can fight you and be ready. And when you fight with him, then you will be killed, you will fall down on the battlefield, and you will become food for the dogs and jackals and crows and whatever. Right? So Lord Brahma had been informed of the danger in the world, and of course he was praying on behalf of the demigods for the manifestation of the Lord to save them all. So there's so many chapters here. I didn't have a chance to find out that place where the description, yes, because of the burden of sin on the earth had fallen into the Garbhodak ocean, right, down to the bottom. And this is a great distress for Manu and others. So they approached Lord Brahma. They did many, many prayers. And he said, okay, I'm pleased with your prayers. And he began to meditate, how will the earth be pulled out of this difficult condition? So he is meditating like that. And in the Bhagavatam, in the 13th chapter, in the 16th verse, it begins, thus seeing the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how it could be lifted. Right? Now, one thing, there are different Varahas, actually. There's 2 Varahas that we know of, but this is description of a particular one. I think it's the red one. Let's see. Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated by a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged in this matter of creation? It is best that the Almighty Lord do direct us. So, even Lord Brahma, great devotee, great servitor, there may be some condition where he also has to pray and dependent on the Lord. And this is the mercy of the Lord. If we all had power, full mystic power, never had any trouble, we would never feel any dependence, never any need to invoke the mercy of the Lord. Right? So that's why it happens. That's why we go through these different stages of dependence in our young age, and then we become proud in our youth, like David Vrat. He thinks he's so strong and powerful, he can eat so much, but your time is coming when disease and old age will beset you, and you remember how you laughed at old people like me, and now you're beset with that misery. But then you'll say, oh, I have no recourse now but to deeply pray to the Lord. And so then your devotional service done in your powerful youth will manifest its full glory. And the Lord will show mercy on you if you're humble. You have to work on that. Okay. So, in the sinless Vidura, Vidura is hearing this. All of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, how are we going to do this? A small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb, proportionate to Brahma's body, just a little tiny bit out of the nostril, right? O descendant of Bharta, while Brahma was observing him, that boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation, as gigantic as a great elephant. So as it flew out of his nose, it began to grow and grow in the sky. Struck with wonder at observing the wonderful boar-like form in the sky, Brahma, the great Brahma, with great brahmanas like Marichi, as well as the Kumaras and Manu, began to argue in various ways. Is this some extraordinary entity, come in the pretense of a boar? It is very wonderful that he has come from my nose. First of all, this boar was seen no bigger than the tip of a thumb. And within a moment, he was as large as a stone. My mind is perturbed. Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu? While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu roared tumultuously like a great mountain. The omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead, or omnipotent, depending where you live, Supreme Personality of Godhead, enlivened Brahma and the other highly elevated brahmanas by again roaring with his uncommon voice, which echoed in all directions. That roar would go through the entire universe, upper and lower planetary systems, penetrating the heart of all. For devotees, even though it's powerful and even terrifying, it's a source of great joy and strength. For the demons, it's horrifying. Even the wives of the demons will have miscarriages hearing that transcendental sound. When the great sages and thinkers, who are residents of Janalok, Tapalok, and Satyalok, those are the three highest planets, heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Boar, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chants from the three Vedas. Yeah. Playing like an elephant, he entered the water after roaring again in reply to the Vedic prayers by the great devotees. The Lord is the object of the Vedic prayers, and thus he understood that the devotees' prayers were meant for him. Now, obviously, all along this reading, there are very beautiful purports by Srila Prabhupada. In the past, we have spent time reading the purports, but then we don't get very far. And sometimes we're enjoined just to read the verses and occasionally maybe bring something out from the purport, but we want to hear the entire pastime. So, Srila Prabhupada does say something very interesting that we have to understand in this, that he says that the Lord has no material form, but his form is always understood in terms of the Vedas. The Vedas are said to be the breath of the Lord, and that breath was inhaled by Brahma, the original student of the Vedas. The breathing from the nostril of Brahma caused the appearance of Lord Boar, and therefore the Boar incarnation of the Lord is the personified Vedas. The glorification of the incarnation by the sages on the higher planets consisted of factual Vedic hymns. Right, so it's, on the one hand, it appears like metaphorical or symbolic, but it's also a reality that Lord Brahma is the first created being, inspired within the heart by the Lord. He hears the Vedic truths. They come into his heart, and then he breathes them out by his own sound vibration, Shabda Brahman. And so his breathing is Shabda Brahman. And so Lord Bor appeared in that way, through the breath of the Lord, through his nostril. And so, before entering the water to rescue the earth, Lord Bor flew in the sky, slashing his tail, his hard hairs quivering. His very glance was luminous, and he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hooves and his glittering white tusks. He was personally the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and was therefore transcendental. Yet, because he had the body of a hog, he searched after the earth by smell. And he also emerged from the nose of Lord Brahma, which is the, organ of smell. Just like Rudra emerged from his forehead in a mood of anger, right? And Prithu Maharaj emerged from the churning of the body of Vena after the sinful reactions had been cleansed through the churning of the thighs. That purified body, the arms, and all manifested the Kshatriya Shakti Vesh Prithu. There's all these interesting things that the Lord manifests. So, he's personally Lord Vishnu. He searched after the earth by smell. His tusks were fearful. And he glanced over the devotee brahmanas engaged in offering prayers. Thus he entered the water. So, Srila Prabhupada makes sure people understand that although the body of a hog is material, the hog form of the Lord was not materially contaminated. It's not possible for an earthly hog to assume a gigantic form and spread throughout the sky, right? Beginning from Satyaloka. The Lord's body is always transcendental in all circumstances. Therefore, the assumption of the form of a boar is only his pastime. Right? And that form was astonishingly beautiful. If you read the Navadvip Mahatmya, when you read the section on Koladweep, the different islands have different presiding deities. In Koladweep, where our Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti Mat is, Devananda Gaudiya Mat, Gurudev's Mat, Keshavji Gaudiya Mat, they both have deities of Lord Varaha in them. And the deities, if you have trouble imagining how a boar could be beautiful, because in this world they're not very beautiful, but those deity forms are astonishingly beautiful. They're human-like up to the neck, and then they have this beautiful boar head, and they're equipped with all transcendental beauty. This is not something that is restricted by material condition. The Lord is beautiful in all circumstances. And there's descriptions of devotees in that Navadvip Mahatmya who worship that form of the Lord as their Ishtadev. And he appeared before them and gave them the benediction. Oh, yes, you're my devotee, and you can also appear during the time of my form as Mahaprabhu. And I will be there, and you can come in pastimes with me at that time. Because the speciality of Mahaprabhu is that he can be also the worshipable deity of devotees of all the different avatars and incarnations, right? And generally, the different avatars, they appear with their own devotees, right? Lord Ram comes with his. Krishna comes with his, right? Any of the others. But Lord Chaitanya, as the original form of God, he has all the incarnations with him, and to show the speciality and all power of this Harinam and its power throughout all of the ages, even though it manifests for everyone in the Kali Yuga, perfected souls take advantage of the holy name in any yuga. In any yuga, that's there. And so all of the different devotees, they can appear with Lord Chaitanya and serve him in great joy. And in that Mahaprakash, 21 hours of manifesting his beauty and his godhood to all of his devotees, he showed himself according to what mood the devotees worshipped him in. So he showed his Varaha form. He showed his Ram form. He showed so many different forms to the different devotees. Okay, so anyway, Srila Prabhupada wants us to understand. And so now you try to imagine this form of the boar, huge, but his hair is glistening and transcendental, beautiful, ivory, well, not ivory, transcendental tusks, right? Luminous, lotus-like eyes, everything about him, his hooves, beautiful and transcendental, diving into the water like a giant mountain. Lord Boar divided the middle of the ocean, and two high waves appeared as the arms of the ocean, which cried out loudly as if praying to the Lord, O Lord of all sacrifices, please do not cut me in two. Kindly give me protection. So, immersed in the joy of his pastime, dove in, and he could have separated the entire ocean. Like you read the Bible, the little Red Sea parted a bit on the prayer of Moses. The entire Garbhodak ocean splitting in two. But the Lord protected it, and then he penetrated the water with his hoofs, which were like sharp arrows, and found the limits of the ocean, although it was unlimited. He saw the earth, the resting place for all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of creation, and he personally lifted it. Lord Boar very easily took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the water. Thus he appeared very splendid. Then his anger, glowing like the Sudarshana wheel, he immediately killed the demon Hiranyaksha, although that demon tried to fight with the Lord. Thereupon Lord Boar killed the demon within the water, just as a lion kills an elephant. The cheeks and tongue of the Lord became smeared with the blood of the demon, just as an elephant becomes reddish from digging in the purple earth. Does that mean he becomes contaminated by the blood? If we get touched by blood, especially of a demon, in fact, demons in other ages, they took great joy in throwing down blood and stool and all kinds of contaminated things on the devotees and the brahmanas in their sacrifice. But he'd been killed by the Lord. And so what happened? His body is completely purified, like Putana. When they burned her body, she was a demoness. It should have smelled rank, like gross stool being burnt. But because the Lord touched her, she became completely purified, and her burning body smelled like incense. So now this smearing him, it becomes decoration. Like when Krishna comes back from the fields and the pasturing grounds, the dust of the cows covers his beautiful face and hair, and he becomes even more beautiful. So now Lord Boar is becoming even more beautiful. Then the Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion, like that of a tamal tree. And thus the sages, headed by Brahma, could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offered respectful obeisance to the Lord. All the sages uttered with great respect, O unconquerable enjoyer of all sacrifices, all glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form as the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body, the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, like to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar, right? Even within the hair holes, the follicles in his body, in Mahavishnu, this is where the universe has come from, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read these prayers. There's a few other chapters about the actual battle, which is what we usually read, but the battle's been summarized. So we're going to read the glorification of the self-realized brahmanas and souls, because this is an appropriate way to glorify Lord Varaha. So now they say, this is very beautiful. Rupam tavaitan nanadushkatatmanam dudashanam devayad advatarakam makam chandaksi yasyat vachibarhiramasa Vrajam Dirshi Tvagrishu Chaturhotram. O Lord, your form is worshipable by performance of sacrifice. But souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusha grass. In your eyes is the clarified butter, ghee. And in your 4 legs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. So Srila Prabhupada makes sure people understand that this is not some anthropomorphic form of God manifested in the minds of conditioned souls to try to have something to meditate on, right? He says there's a class of miscreants who are known in the words of the Bhagavad Gita as Vedavadi, or so-called strict followers of the Vedas. They do not believe in the incarnation of the Lord. What to speak of the Lord's incarnation as the worshipable hog? They describe worship of the different forms or incarnations of the Lord as anthropomorphism. You know what that means? It means in the mind of, like, a human person, you imagine a form of God to be like you, right? But greater, right? Right? Anthropology, study of humanity like that. Zoomorphism is to imagine God in the form of an animal, right? But they think it's a extended concoction, right? Of the material mind trying to imagine transcendence, right? In the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, these men and women are miscreants. And in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, they are called not only miscreants, but also fools and the lowest of mankind. And it's said that their knowledge has been plundered by illusion due to their atheistic temperament. So they cannot understand. He says all of the parts of the Lord, his eyes, his bodily hair holes, his hairs, his tusk, all are described as different parts of the Vedas. He is therefore the personified form of the Vedic hymns, and specifically the Gayatri Mantra. It's a mystery in that little statement. Srila Prabhupada is establishing that, planting that seed, that all of this and all the Vedic hymns, ultimately the deepest and most unknown part of the Vedic hymns, Gayatri Mantra. Because what do we know about the Gayatri Mantra? What is the Gayatri Mantra? It's the sound of Krishna's flute. Mm-hmm. And what's in the sound of Krishna's flute but the reality of Vrindavan and his love for the gopis, right? So they go on to say, "O Lord, your tongue is a plate of sacrifice. Your nostril is another plate of sacrifice. In your belly is the eating plate of sacrifice, and another plate of sacrifice is the whole of your ears. In your mouth is the Brahma plate of sacrifice. Your throat is the plate of sacrifice known as Soma, and whatever you chew is known as Agni Hotra." In other words, all parts of the body of the Lord are manifestations of his accepting service from his devotees. We may imagine it in that way. In fact, there's a form called Vishwarup, which is a material conception of the form of the Lord, which says that the great form of the Lord manifests itself in the form of all material creation, like the mountains are his bones, the rivers are his blood veins and vessels, the grasses are his, and the trees are his hairs, all of these things. But Srila Prabhupada says that it's understood that by regulation there are different plates of sacrifice required. And he lists them all. Shrak, Shruva, Barhis, Chaturhotra, right? One cannot achieve the results of sacrifice unless one observes the strict regulations. See, so we don't, he says, in this age, we don't have any conception of that. There's no facility for performing sacrifice and strict discipline. Therefore, in this age of Kali, there is a stricture regarding such sacrifice. It's explicitly directed that one should perform Sankirtan Yajna and nothing more. The incarnation of the Lord is Yajneshwara. And unless one has respect for the incarnation of the Lord, he cannot perfectly perform sacrifice. So in this time, this is the beginning of such a yuga, they're seeing the Lord and they're relating into his bodily form and all the Vedic regulations which were necessary at that time for fulfilling and serving the Lord. All these different kinds of sacrifice that were performed. But in this is written for people in the Kali Yuga, our form of sacrifice is strictly chanting. And everything else is just to satisfy the minds and hearts of people who depend on ritual, on liturgy. But actually everything is complete. When Srila Prabhupada established Krishna Balaram Mandir, right, in or temple in Vrindavan, he engaged the local brahmanas to perform all these sacrifices that are generally done. But he told the devotees, you go and do kirtan constantly during this. This is all we really need to do. We're engaging these brahmanas so that the people in general will have faith that this is a genuine temple. Right? So all the other things that people do, like Shraddha ceremonies and all, they're actually to create faith by ritual, right? Because, that's a very powerful symbolism there. But also, as Vaishnavas, we also do homas or sacrifice, but what do? We do Vaishnava homa, we do homas chanting the names of the Lord, the Shringa homa and others. But the reason we do them is to engage people in general who have faith in these rituals, because in those sacrifices, there's constant chanting of the names of the Lord and the names of the devotees of the Lord. And there's Hari Nam in that. It's really just a means to get people to hear and chant the names of the Lord. So our Giridhari Maharaj is doing this for a while. He's doing it every day in Vrindavan. But it's just to create, because, we structure our life around ritual. Ritual is very good. Sadhan is a certain ritual, right? It gives us structure and discipline. But the empowering factor behind all of it, that which we're trying to get ourselves aligned with, is the chanting of the holy name. That's the all-powerful thing. So they say, the sages, O Lord, the repetition of your appearance is the desire for all kinds of initiation. Your neck is the place for 3 desires, and your tusks are the result of initiation and the end of all desires. Right. Initiation, what does that mean? Initiation into the holy names, into the Gayatri mantra, the personification of the Lord in sound, repetition of your appearance, hearing about these things, this Shabda Brahman. Your tongue is the prior activities of initiation. Your head is the fire without sacrifice, as well as the fire of worship, and your living forces are the aggregate of all desires. O Lord, your semen is the sacrifice called Soma Yajna. Your growth is the ritualistic performances of the morning. Your skin and touch sensations are the 7 elements of the Agni Stoma sacrifice. Your bodily joints are symbols of various other sacrifices performed in 12 days. Therefore, you are the object of all sacrifices called Soma and Asoma, and you are bound by yajnas only. This is so technical. We have no idea of the highly detailed technical nature of Vedic instruction. We're not educated like that in this age. It's impossible to be educated like that. If you were to try to become educated in all the Vedas, you would have no time for anything else. That's why in previous ages, people specialized. Even the 4 sons of Lord Brahma took instruction in 1 Veda each. And then there were others who were in charge of the Puranas and the Upanishads, individually Upanishads. When Gopakumar went to Satyalok and became Lord Brahma, he invited all these personified persons, and they were all there. Thousands and thousands of personifications of all the divisions of Vedic knowledge. But what happened? He said, tell me what's the absolute truth and the goal. And they were all arguing because they all had a different version, different viewpoint, right? And many, many of them were Brahmavads. No Mayavads, but Brahmavads. And Srimad Bhagavatam became disgusted. And he said, I can't be here. I can't listen to all this. And he left. And then Gopakumar said, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Come back and give your version, right? That's what we need in this age. Srimad Bhagavatam, and in fact, Lord Chaitanya says, don't waste your time trying to study what to speak of all the Vedas, even the books of other religions. There's just no time. Immerse yourself. I just read something from Srila Prabhupada where he said when he was initiated, his Guru Maharaj Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada instructed him to read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He said everything is in that. And so he said he read it, very deeply 3 times at that time. And from that, he wrote his Nectar of Devotion, a study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, breaking it down and making it accessible to the Western mind, right? And even that, it's so high, so high. So, O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are worshipable by universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer our obeisance unto you. You can be realized by the pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible contamination. We offer our respectful obeisance to you as the Supreme Spiritual Master of knowledge and devotional service. O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your tusks, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant just coming out of the water. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. The Lord is beautiful, but when he's in the association of his devotees, he's even more beautiful. And the earth is his wife. They're going to be married. They're going to have a son. Right. So let's see, how much more is there? 1, 2, lots of verses here. But it says in the end, in this manner, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all living entities, raised the earth from within the water. And having placed it afloat on the water, he returned to his own abode. Right? Because he's already fought in Hiranyaksha here. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Bohr, hears, and describes in a devotional attitude, try to keep that devotional attitude in the heart, right? Even when the mind, the story, because we're always attacked by sleep, right? Let me just read this verse. This auspicious narration of Lord Bohr, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. Hey, if you hear nicely, by transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. All those little desires running around in your head all the time, constantly invading and trying to distract you from pure devotion, insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. So after hearing all those prayers by the demigods in reference to all these ritualistic sacrifice, pointing out the idea that, remember, that sacrifice has no purpose for material gain, elevation of the heavenly planets, all the things that people aspire for, transcendental loving service. Bhagavatam focuses us on the purpose of these narrations, the purpose for hearing these pastimes. Who, other than one who is not a human being, can exist in this world and not be interested in the ultimate goal of life? Who can refuse the nectar of narrations about the personality of Godhead's activities, which by itself can deliver one from material pangs? So, to whatever degree we don't have that interest, we're not human beings. Right? Remember that story of Srila Prabhupada? The devotee came and said, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, I feel like I'm now 50% devotee." He says, "Yes, 50% devotee means 50% demon." We have those two sides, right? Yeah, we're always fighting. And, we're fighting sleep. One time, one man came to Bhakti Rakshat Sridhar Maharaj because he was the local sadhu, so respected. And he said, "Oh, Maharaj, I have a terrible affliction. I haven't been able to sleep for weeks and weeks. I'm in torment. What do I do?" He said, "Come tomorrow to Bhagavatam class. I'll help you." And the man came to Bhagavatam class, and as soon as the class was going on, he fell asleep. Right? And the class went on, whatever, hour or so. After the class, he woke up, and he said, "Oh, Maharaj, it was a miracle. I fell asleep immediately. How is it possible?" And he said, "Oh, because you were in Bhagavatam class, and Nidra Devi, the goddess of sleep, has been given a benediction that anyone who has no interest in the Bhagavatam or the narrations of the Lord, in that presence, that she can sit on their head and they'll fall asleep." So, when we used to be in class and we were so tired from such hard work, we'd have to stand up, and even then sometimes devotees would fall over, so tired. But we're working on it, right? We're trying our best. All right, so offering obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who's given us this divine narration of the Bhagavatam and the insights of our great acharyas. He's provided glorification of Lord Varaha, whose appearance day is today, to Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who has given us so much as well. All the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Gaur Premanande, Haribol, Haribol. There's so much more, many more chapters describing his fight, all the other things, but we don't usually just do this little part. Usually we go to the others. Anyway, so now we did our best in the time we have for class. Haribol, Haribol.